said so long, carry on, 'cause the devil wants to take me for a ride.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to...
What the fuck? All right, we're 1 second in and I've spilled bong water on myself.
Alex just spilled bong water all
running.
over himself.
I don't know where that came from. I don't know what I did. I'm usually really good at this. I feel like I'm the kid that just like blew the smoke out of the blew the weed out of the bowl.
You're
first time
supposed
smoking.
to be a professional
I'm an
pothead.
aficionado.
Yeah,
this is
like,
ridiculous.
This is kind of your MO, dude. Is to be able to get pot.
I'm disappointed in myself, first and foremost.
So, different location if you're watching. I'm over Alex's using his studio. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Get Your Act Together with Mike Bain. How you doing? I have here friend of the podcast, funny comedian, creator of the actual news, Alex Giampapa.
Thank you. Thank you, man. I'm happy to be here. Always happy to be here.
This is, well, it is your house.
I
It is
know.
a nice-
I know. I love being home more than anywhere else.
This is also nice because I always see dudes doing podcasts in comfy chairs where they hold the microphone, and it's a nice change of pace.
Yeah. Well, we have a wall here. You see.
I miss just like sitting lazily in a chair. I'm usually at attention.
Yeah, that's true. Also, you're so used to seeing comedians in dirty places. You know what I mean? So many that I see, I guess, are comedians sitting in a dirty apartment. And that is, in reality, where most of them live.
Yeah.
But, dude, it's nice to be sitting at a nice table with you in some nice chairs doing a pretty well-produced podcast. Because, like, at this point, we've been doing comedy together for, about a decade, right?
Yeah. It's a long
Which
fucking time.
is a long fucking time. And it's interesting because I always think about this someday, whoever becomes something or however many people become something, fans and the like will go back through comedians' profiles and they'll see the progression of stuff. And one of the things that we've had to learn as comedians outside of just getting better at doing comedy is how to produce our own content.
Yeah, not make it suck.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a big deal.
Making it look good. That's really important, and making it sound good and so forth. And there's an underrated part of being, or I guess something that isn't talked about enough when it comes to professional creatives is the fact that they have to be not only good at whatever the skill is, but also a video editor, and an audio engineer, and a social media manager, and somehow an expert at PR, and the networking is fucking unbelievable. It is every degree of life. It is, a dozen different skills at once.
You got to be 10 jobs at once. And this is what I explained
It sucks, man.
to my older relatives, my aunts and uncles, and I'm like, look, man, do you know this comedy thing in the 80s and 90s? I've been doing a lot better. I'm just going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And it's simply because dudes I know from that time period were like, I just had to be a comedian.
Yes.
That was it. And they didn't
Yes.
even want to be anything else. I'd meet dudes
Yeah.
that were like, I never wanted to be on TV. I just wanted to be a comedian.
Yeah.
I want to do radio. I just want to be a comedian. Now I'm a comic, podcaster, social media influencer. I'm also my own video editor. I'm a social media content, besides the influencer, but you're the one putting it up. Like,
Yes.
there are jobs at companies where people just make posts
Yes.
for Instagram.
Yes.
I'm like, I fucking do that too, dude. Why?
Yeah.
How do I get to be the dude for Nabisco
Yeah.
that figures out this is the time we put up our corny ass Instagram post?
Yeah, and I mean, just for like reference, like when you were a comedian in like the 80s or whatever, as Mike's saying, you had to get to the gig and you would do the gig, which is sometimes doing like 15 minutes of comedy. You would then get paid enough money that you could like afford to live.
And sometimes you could get paid in cocaine too.
Yes, you could also do that if you wanted. And then you'd like go home. Whereas now that is not even a fucking remote possibility. I mean, if you're great, obviously, yeah. But, dude, you're basically just like doing content with every waking moment you have, chasing the dragon of, oh, one of the algorithms will bless me. Because, by the way, the closest thing that most of us have to a god now is the algorithm.
Yeah, the god is kind of Thor at this point, or
it's this
Zeus.
mysterious force that controls our lives. We don't know exactly like how it works, but we have faith in it, and we have to believe in it.
I would love it if I could just sacrifice a goat or a human virgin or an infant child like they used to do in Carthage to get the algorithm to love me more.
Yeah. Yeah, you sacrifice a testicle by getting hit in the nuts and going viral. Basically, is your best chance.
But
you chase that. You chase specifically like the opportunity to go viral in some sense. And I mean, I've done that in some capacity, and so have you now. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because we're at actually a pretty different point in our comedy careers because of that. But it's not actually like that different.
Dude,
but it is different. It's a little better.
It's sort of like we think about it because this matters to us, but in the grand scheme, to no one else who cares about comedy, it's just a reflection of where America's at, dude. It's not the world in general. Yeah. It's just that career that used to be something that you could do for 40 years or whatever, whether it be entertainment or a bus driver. Like I had this conversation with you right before the episode started where I explained that both my grandfathers were bus drivers. Bought homes in the city. You know, when Southie was a slum, but still bought homes and then raised families and the wives didn't work.
Yes.
And I was like, what could I get away? How many kids could I raise in the city of Boston as a bus driver nowadays? Yeah. Like a half a kid?
Yeah.
Like just like a...
Maybe. But like, dude, it's...
Like an anorexic kid that I don't take care of.
This is the crazy part, and it's so difficult for older people to get this because there are parts of America that have progressed and there are parts of America that have regressed. And they cannot see that some things get better and other things get worse. And one of the things that gets better is technology and the fact that, like, yes, we have, like, softer toilet paper now. But the things that regress...
Is it softer? I've been using a lot of fucking sandpapery toilet paper, man. I don't know what you're shitting.
Dude, stop getting it at fucking Dollar Tree, man.
Yeah, well, dude, this isn't even like the toilet paper I buy. It's just the toilet paper I use when I'm in a public space.
Yeah.
Like, I used to, when I would work at the convention center in Boston, it was sandpaper. I would come home with a bloody bum every day from work. It was like you would think that I was in a Chinese torture cell.
I hear you. Or just got a rim job from a cat.
Isn't that just like when your employer is like, I'm not giving you nice toilet paper. Like, what do you think this is, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, that comes back to the other part that's regressed, which is such a major thing, and it's just the simple idea of how you're treated as a worker, because that is the function of basically every adult human being in America, is being a worker or an owner in some capacity. And the workers used to, in the past, when shit was supposed to be worse than it is now, had a single income household where they could afford a home, food, and a family. And that was fine. That was good. That was an agreeable sort of system. And then slowly but surely it became more and more difficult to do that, where people who are in their 30s now see owning a home and raising a family as some kind of fantasy.
I think it is. My favorite memes, and I've sent you plenty of these, are the memes of my parents in their 30s and they're buying a house. And then it's me in my 30s and it's like...
I can't afford teeth!
I don't... It's going to cost me $5,000 to save my cat.
Dude, having that feeling of like having like the bank account that just doesn't have enough digits and knowing how much it's going to cost for you to be alive today is the most devastating shit. Where you're doing the math and you're like, I got like 6 days till I get paid, and I got like 5 days of life in my wallet. You know what I mean? Like, you got to really spread it sometimes. And that has changed recently. But, like, dude, when you're in it, there is not a way to see out of it. Or that's changed for me recently. But when someone is in it, it is impossible to see out of it because you can only plan in the short term to such a degree that it's like, I can't even like see the light at the end of the tunnel because like, dude, I have like $256 and I live in a city. I've
had this talk with a couple comedians recently, and we were talking about coded messages in TV and programming, and it's like, you ever feel like the elites are just like fucking with you?
Yes, they're making fun of us.
They're literally like spitting in your face. like when I would sell weed and other things in New York City, I remember going to multi-million-dollar condos in Manhattan to sell people a bag, and I'm in a fucking penthouse, and I'm looking out over Brooklyn, and they're like, 45 for an eighth?
And they haggle.
And I go, you just want to fuck me. And you know I can see the World Trade Center right outside your window, dude. Yes. I can see that mall right there with the fountain.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that with TV, where they just let you know, hey, we know what we're doing. Yeah. I watched Castlevania, and there's a scene where one of the characters said, we've been taught that there is no tomorrow. And the reason we've been taught that there is no tomorrow is because we don't prepare for a future. And I was like, dude, I didn't think I was going to live past 30. I remember telling my girlfriend, my ex, I was like, you know I'm not going to live past 30, right? And she was like, she goes, what do you think how I feel as a woman when the man I love tells me, expect me to die. don't expect anything long term.
But you were the rock star, dude. You know, you're in your 20s, you're a comedian, you're good at it, so you figure, I'll be fucking world famous by 28, right? You're like, all right, you're doing the math, and you're always like, all right, I just missed the 27 club, but like next year I'll get the big special. For some reason, every person in America will watch my special on a channel that like no one even watches anymore. And then I'll become world famous, incredibly powerful. I'll do so much cocaine that, I mean, literally, like, I'll do so much cocaine that the police will want to do cocaine with me because I'm so famous, and they'll just allow me to do it. And then I just die in a blaze of glory. That's just how you picture it.
And then, like, I wish that was what I pictured. I just pictured me dying, like, of suicide or drugs, porn alone. That's
fair enough. I forgot to put the Mike Bain twist on it. Just make it depressing for no reason.
I figured success was my way out of that death.
Oh, okay. And then I get it. That's also a psychology where you think that your art will save you. But,
yes, that's where I was at.
But you're still thinking about that in an artsy way, where it's like you would have been the tortured artist who the industry didn't understand, and that's why they let you fall through the cracks, and that's why you die in the ditch, ultimately, right? Is because, like, the world doesn't get you. And I've had the same fucking thing where I'm like, look, like, dude, like, the reason that my life will be bad is because whoever books the Tonight Show sucks. You know what I mean? Like, just looking at all of it like not just the industry, but just the establishment we have in every sense. Like we were saying earlier, millennials have this specific life experience where they lived through this chunk of time in America where you literally watch every institution not even fuck up, but just blatantly either cheat or lie or give you some reason to not believe in it, right? Mm-hmm. So we start off our lives with this maybe stolen election between Al Gore and George W. Bush, and then 9/11 happens, and we go to war. And dude, I was,
hey, we just got out.
Good.
It's been.
Good. We just did it. We just did it.
We did just leave Afghanistan.
You ever have someone come over to stay at your house because times are tough, and then you find out that actually they lied about the reason they're moving in, and then also they end up staying for a decade?
Dude, because the Taliban's already taken 50% of the country back. it's just comical. I find it
It's fucking
funny.
insane. It's fucking insane.
That like it's
Yeah.
And when I thought about that time period of it's been 20 years.
Yep.
And I was like, oh shit, man.
Yeah.
It's like that's pretty fucking. There you go. That's a solid chunk of time. I'm being.
It's 2 decades. As I said a decade.
Yeah.
And like it's two. That's.
It was
'cause a
right
decade
after
was-
9/11.
Just in my head, a decade was such a long amount of time. But yeah, dude. I mean, all of that happens, and then we go to war. And literally, I remember like it being announced in our auditorium that we were going to war, and we waved American flags. I think about that all the time. I was like in like the 4th grade or something, maybe 5th, 6th.
You ever think like when I was in public school, we'd have to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and you put your hand over your heart and you stand at the flag, and now we've like done a complete in the same lifetime. And I'm not that much, I'm 34. It's like kneeling and for the anthem, and I was like, dude, shit has changed a lot, man.
Shit has changed a lot.
It's been a nice roller coaster.
Yeah, because we go from that to then, like, I don't know when you found out, but I was in college, and I was being taught this in a class, and I'd, like, watch The Daily Show and stuff. But really, they were able to get through to me that, like, we straight up lied. Like, we didn't even think there were WMDs there. Like, Colin Powell knowingly lied to the UN, said there are weapons of mass destruction there. We have, intelligence that says that. To go in and start a war that killed 1 million people. And from there, you have the 2008 financial crisis, and do your research on that. But basically, we elect this guy, Barack Obama, and then a lot of bad shit happens behind the scenes. A lot of people get sold out. The economy is changed after that in a very bad way. From there, we have... just a fucking... I don't even know how to describe the Trump era. I don't know how to describe it because it coincides with levels of wealth being so out of whack that, the Occupy movement happens, like, I forget even when, maybe 2013 or something.
Yeah, that was before Trump.
But they stomp that, and then it manifests in this way that, Donald Trump sort of takes advantage of. Of course, we blatantly also watch the socialist candidate just get eliminated by the establishment twice. And so when you say to me, like, why don't millennials have faith in anything? This is why. It's because of what happened. It's because of the evidence.
It's more of the story of what... So America has to be held together by a story, right? If you're Germany, we're all just German. We're ethnically German, Japan, so many countries. You just have your identity. Like this is we have a racial ethnic identity that goes back centuries, and we have so much history and mythology with that. Whereas America, you get people from every part of the world. What makes us Americans? This idea that we're all going to get rich, or at least the idea if you work hard, we're all going to get that nice house and that life.
Yeah.
And it wasn't real for everyone. And the problem is like when it's not real for too many people, it doesn't work anymore.
Right. People stop believing in it. And you need to sell it to the middle class to get them to, still want to stand above the working class or whatever class is beneath them. Right. Now in America, like there's kind of this trick that they had going for a long time where there's just the upper class and the working class, however you want to phrase all that, that's up to debate to some capacity, but there's basically an upper class and a lower class, and you got to convince a big chunk of the lower class that they are the middle class and that the lower class is coming for their money to keep them divided to some degree to maintain the upper class. And what happened is they let way too many people, like I think this all the time, that they just let the fucking billionaires get too greedy. That's all it was. Like, and they did that to themselves, but it's like, dude, you guys cannot be trying to buy one of the islands of Hawaii while most people cannot afford to live. This can't happen simultaneously. Bezos, you cannot take 10 billion, I think it's billion, it could be million, either way, it's too fucking much, but I'm pretty sure it's a billion. You cannot take $10 billion of government money to go to space.
Yeah.
Use your own.
You also can't keep fucking their kids in front of them and then just like,
I mean, is the
Ah.
Epstein thing not the fucking end of the
Well, yeah.
millennial timeline?
Can-
Is that not it? Where you're just like, oh, legit, they're pedophiles too?
That really is just like, dude, that's like the end of a superhero movie, and then you find out Thanos was fucking kids the whole time too.
my God.
And you're like, Jesus Christ, man, enough is enough. And
Yeah, yeah.
and
Dude,
they're like,
it fucking...
they're not even gonna lie.
Yeah. I mean, COVID, like, blew it all open. And, like, I don't know, maybe there's some part of it I don't see, but it's been so blatant that it's like, how do you not expect some kind of an uprising? I mean, whatever, I digress. But the point is, people that are our age are noticing. We're noticing, obviously. Why would we not?
So those of you who don't know, Alex has a show called The Actual News.
It's mostly this kind of shit.
How has it been reporting for you on what's going on just in the world today, especially in a time where, I can tell you right off the bat, I've been called a Nazi and a communist within like the same hour. Yeah, we had a fun segment before the show started.
But it's like go ahead. Sorry I cut you off, but I mean overall it's definitely overwhelming. I would also say isolating to some degree at this point, because people are what they know. Mm-hmm. And right now everybody thinks different things.
Yeah, it's hard to. I guess that's our biggest flaw as a nation is.
It is.
If
and
you have different
exactly
groups
why.
who exist in different realities, how do you get them to work together as a people?
Right, and that's actually the answer to the question we're asking, which is, how does it get this bad? And how does it get this bad and people still don't collectively begin to bargain? How do you not join hands with the people you don't agree with on certain things, but on whether or not this guy is going to just print money for himself and go to space while also being the richest man in the world? And like this is this out of whack, and you're still not going to just like be like, all right, wait a minute. We need one candidate. We need someone to just fucking come up here and establish the common sense of living in the richest nation in the world and having some standard of living, right? You wonder about that, and for me on my show, it was about following all of these divided media entities and taking the little pieces of truth that they would give you and figuring out what the entire story was, and then giving that to people and letting them decide on their own what the deal is. There's this issue now where we have different ideas as to why we're in pain and why things have gotten bad to this degree. And it's crazy because so much of it is driven by language, because people's behavior is so driven by language. So like one thing, for example, that I like to sort of explain to people is that right now terms like capitalism, socialism, communism,
Fascism,
authoritarianism, most people don't even use those words in the same way to each other. Like, most people don't even mean the same thing. And even taking, a further step from there, most people don't even know what they're talking about when they use these terms. And that's on purpose, because there are certain political philosophies that the people who run media companies and the people who basically run the communications industries, they'd be better off if you didn't know about particular political philosophies. Mm-hmm. The people who own AT&T, right? They don't want you talking on the phone about, I don't know, all of the workers at AT&T unionizing, right? So these terms, capitalism, socialism, fascism, even like democracy, even like liberal, even conservative, these are basically meaningless terms if you're not going to use them to actually understand what's going on around you. So right now, there's a similar fear amongst traditional conservatives and traditional liberals. And terminology keeps them separated. What they're worried of is a few people being in control of many people. It's having just a select few individuals who are hyper powerful, hyper wealthy, hyper whatever you want to describe it, and those few people being in control of all of the other people's lives in the country. And conservatives seem to consider this authoritarian communism. They think that communism is coming. They think that these few people being in control of everyone else is going to come in the form of tricking the populace into thinking that if they hand control of the world over to the government, they will then start to redistribute the wealth. They'll start to... Basically, you can solve your problems through government power, and increasing their power will help you, right? So conservatives in America fear that. And then liberals fear a few people being in control of everyone else, and they dub that fascism. And they seem to think that this power situation, this few people being in charge of many others, would be called fascism, and that comes through the wrong people being voted into government, abuse of the system, abuse of democracy, misinformation, and they dub that fascism. It doesn't matter what the fuck you call it. You can't have a few people in control of everyone else. Whether that's going to be 8 billionaires or whether that's going to be, 500 politicians in a white building somewhere. That doesn't work to any degree. So...
Well, it also doesn't help when they genuinely hate, resent, and look down on the people they're supposed to govern.
They do. They've gotten to that point.
Yeah,
and a lot of that comes from the massive amount of separation we have.
Yeah.
Like, if you weren't that wealthy and powerful, like, you couldn't fucking say that about your constituents. You couldn't say that about the people. You couldn't do this to your voters. They'd fucking show up at your front step.
You know what's funny, man, is even at various times throughout history, so the class war is what brings the downfall of most empires and civilizations.
Yep.
Is people just keep getting greedy, and enough is never enough.
Yep.
And with the Romans, right, they always knew if we fuck up too much, they are going to kill us.
Yeah.
Like they live in the same city as us, and they will just walk over here and chop us up.
They know. That's the
And
craziest thing, yeah.
So they had their bread and circus tax, where the richest people were taxed, and they would use grain from Egypt to give bread to the poor for free from the rich, and they would give them their circus, their gladiatorial games, their races, just games that so the rich would pay for games and bread to keep the poor from killing them. In today's environment, they don't even want to do that. They're like, you're going to pay for your football stadium that I'm going to make money off of.
Yes.
It's
That's
like,
what I'm
dude,
saying.
Come on, man. Like,
it's
at least,
greedy, man.
At least pay them, give them ramen. Get a nice ramen, Netflix tax on Bezos, all right?
Yeah.
You can't even give out free Netflix.
Yeah.
Are you gonna program us anyway? At least make it free. You're gonna make me pay to watch cuties? Are you kidding me? I gotta pay for fucking pedophilia that you're shoving into my family? Oh my god,
dude, it's unreal. Yeah, I mean that really is like a big part of the issue. Is you look at America for the last 75 years or so, and it wasn't actually that equal, right? They were just running the game a lot better. They were just like, people were entertained, they were at home, they were happy, so they're not going to rise up or do anything or even fucking like bother looking up Karl Marx. Why would they even look them up? That doesn't matter. Shit is pretty good here.
Yeah, I got Joni Loves Chachi, dude. I don't got
dude,
time
fuck
for
that
shit.
So, you have that scam you're running, and then, dude, all the scam artists are fucking in their 80s now. Like, you can see right through these people. So it doesn't work anymore. And it's like, dude, at least bring it back to the standard of living that already existed, so we don't have to listen to our fucking boomer parents be like, why don't you own a fucking home? And like, dude, like, this shit costs more. Have any of them ever done the math on any of this? Like, dude, they're always like, back in my day, I was able to afford. Well, shit costs more now. You fucking
in the
jackass. It's crazy.
In the 1950s, you could buy a house for $13,000. Can you believe that, dude? Even in the 90s, you could get a house for $100,000. Now it's just, that is now worth $750,000 of a mil, easily. Many places. You're someone I know who's also looked into investing cryptocurrency and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm curious to talk about this with you. Because my feeling is that America is going to go through some hyperinflation, and we're already doing it. You're seeing it with gas. You're seeing it with lumber. You're seeing it with various goods that are way more expensive than they should be.
Yeah.
And we printed out like 25% more dollars into the economy.
20% of all U.S. wealth was printed in 2020.
Yeah, and
people don't get it.
It is this fucking Dogecoin. Like, no,
I was screaming this at my friends. I was screaming this at my friends. I was like, you don't understand what this is gonna do. When I saw that, I took any money I had and I tried to put it into something that I thought was going to inflate as a result of it. So, I mean, house prices are fucking inflating big time. So, if you can somehow manage to do that, then, buying a place.
Collectibles too, actually. Like,
yes,
dude, I know people investing in baseball cards.
Yeah.
For whatever reason,
Pokemon cards
because of all this, I gotta sell my Pokemon cards, dude.
Dude, yep.
And my Beanie Babies. It's time to cash in,
It's
dude.
time. We've been waiting a very long.
That was
dude,
my mother's investment plan in the 90s.
Bro, diamond hands, baby.
I still have.
You got diamond hands with your Pokemon
Dude,
cards.
I buy Dogecoin and I sell the next day for for a minimal profit, but I've been holding on to Beanie Babies for years. I have a massive tub of about 300 Beanie Babies. I got like 3 Princess Dianas. I got the Aaron Grogs. I get them all. I even got my Pokemon cards. And my friend was like, are they in good condition? I feel like I was like, yeah, they're in a book, dude. Fuck you. Took care of my Pokemon cards, man.
That's so funny, man. Yeah, I invested in some stock, which, I mean, you could have bought really high last year at certain points, but I lucked out with like the GameStop thing. I bought Bitcoin really low. Ethereum
It's
got
low
pretty
right
low
now,
too. Yeah,
But
but people forget, like, when the pandemic started, it was at 7K. It's at 30K now, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, it's so low!" Like, dude, it exploded. Palantir is one company that is kind of actually it's like a pump and dump, honestly, but I think long term that's like a good play. But I just got my money out of sitting because I figured it's going to, when you experience inflation, right? So they printed 20% of all U.S. dollars last year, which means that if I gave you a $100 bill but said, this is now worth $80, like, that's why inflation happens.
Dude,
because you increase the actual amount of it, so people will charge more.
I hate myself because whenever I would get any money, I would save it. I was like, I need to save this for a time of need.
Well, that's of course the mentality you should have, but we live in a fucking
I should have been
made
investing.
up game.
I should have been investing that money because now that money that I've saved and worked so hard for, it's like, oh, magic, spin the magic wheel.
Yeah.
Now it's less. And I go, dude, this is like, at least in Monopoly, the fucking money's always the same. At no point in the Monopoly game does my money ever decrease in value.
Yeah, they're never like, you landed on a space that says that the Federal Reserve has printed $30 trillion. They're just taking your house.
You've
Well,
landed
how
on-
did that happen? You just have to throw the board game in the trash. That's what the card says.
You've landed on the Weimar Republic. Get ready for someone with a new mustache. Or it's just a Monopoly man gets a nice Hitler stash.
A Saudi Arabian prince now owns the Monopoly board and your actual home. That's what the card says. That's just when you pass go now. You owe the government $300.
I don't understand people who are hypercritical of cryptocurrency because I've tried to explain to them how is this different from a mainstream currency,
Right.
other than just belief.
Yeah.
Someone believes in
I've seen it from a lot of liberals because they have faith in regulation, right? They have sort of this blind trust in regulation and what it does.
So strange.
Yeah.
Because their ideology is based on the fact that our government and our elites have done horrible things, which I agree with. Throughout time, to Indians, to through slavery, to breaking up and busting unions, all the
Right.
different stuff that we know of. But then it's like, let's trust these same people now to fix the problem.
Yeah, ultimately that's considered, I think, but it comes down to, but it's the best we got. It's an inherently depressing worldview because it lives with the idea that there's no actual solution to inequality, and it basically is that, you know.
I think there's a solution. It's called crypto, right? That's the solution.
What's interesting about when you look at finance, and I think the big opposition to crypto from people who are pretty informed, and I see a lot of it from leftists, one is the environmental thing. That is essentially made up. It's not that you don't generate a lot of power to mine Bitcoin. Mining Bitcoin is essentially creating more of it. It's a coding process, but it does take power.
Yeah,
It's that you need energy to, right, so you need energy to do anything. You need energy to do fucking anything. It's like there's some statistic, and it's like it's worse for the environment to eat like 6 burgers in a year than it is it's worse to eat 6 burgers in a year than it is to like mine a Bitcoin or sell an NFT or something like that. And it is true that Ethereum and Dogecoin actually use a lot less electricity, but you can also just power all of this, from what I've heard, from green sources. So, like usual, the issue here is not your individual choices. They just make you seem like it is. They make it seem like your individual choices will influence whether or not climate change will happen, or so on or so forth. But in reality, it is the people who are in control who will not bail on whatever fucked up fossil fuel system we have now. They'll hold us to this instead of moving to something more green, which would allow people to use Bitcoin without an environmental impact. And in that same vein, the way to get shit out of the hands of these people is largely through something like Bitcoin, because this is finally something that they can't just stop.
Yeah.
They can't just shut down. Because they can shut down the U.S. dollar. They can close your fucking bank account if they
They can
want
take
to.
that money whenever. You know
Yeah.
that scene in Blow where he goes to get his money from the Panamanian bank and they go, "Oh, the government just took it." And he goes,
Yeah.
"What do you mean?" And they're like, "The government, it just took it, man." I remember watching that with my dad and I go, "What do you mean they just took it?" He goes, "They just took it. It's what
Yeah.
they can do."
Yeah.
And people are like, that can only happen in Panama, or a third world country.
Right.
No, it can't. You think
No,
they can't just
no.
do that here in the U.S. and just be like,
Right.
this is mine now.
Right. So, and make note, do not make the mistake of thinking that this is the perfect miracle thing that's going to fix and establish a perfect utopia. Because, dude, like, the CIA owns a bunch of Bitcoin. BlackRock owns a bunch of Bitcoin. It'll make it easier for them to do shit that most people probably don't want them doing.
Yeah, imagine if you could have done
There's-
Iran-Contra with Bitcoin or crypto. You'd be fine.
Never
You
would
wouldn't
have heard about
Yeah.
it. Never would have never would have happened. Yeah, plenty of shit.
The
Plenty of
CIA is just trading cocaine for ballistic missiles on the dark web
shit. Right.
and
So-
little kids.
be blatant, dude. Epstein's Island would be 3 times as big.
If you could,
they would be, dude.
Can I pay for kids with Ethereum now?
You know what? I'm gonna retract that laugh because there's definitely a kid who has been purchased.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, yes.
Dogecoin,
Yeah, there has.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't know for a fact, but I do know for a fact.
It's not completely unregulated, but they're trying to get a hold of it, and that's the case.
Question.
So yeah,
what is an NFT? Because I don't know, and I have an idea, but I want someone to explain it.
The easiest way to explain it actually is so I've gone on several very technical explanations of it, and actually the easiest way to explain it is that it makes every piece of digital content into a baseball card. It makes it into a collectible. So when you create a piece of content, a unique encrypted code is created. As the author, only you have access to the code, but now you can sell it for cryptocurrency to other people. So if you've had a viral clip, or even just like you put up a piece of art, like a poster or a song or something that people really like locally, or maybe someone in your life just like really wants it, or maybe someone thinks that you're gonna be a big deal and they want to buy low on your NFTs now, and so they want to buy your song for $100, and then one day if you blow up, the NFT will be worth $1 million. It's kind of how fine art trading works, but I think collectibles are really the best way to describe it. So you have Mike has that video where he's talking to the chipmunk, right? Yeah. So that blew up on TikTok. And you could sell the NFT for that. I believe, I don't really know how TikTok works exactly, but you could sell at least the file, the video.
So if anyone wanted to use it, they would have to go through the person who now owns it. It couldn't go through me.
Nope, they just own the NFT.
So how do they profit off of it? It's just
selling it to someone else.
So it's just literally like a fine art collectible.
Yes.
This is a painting. I own it.
Yeah, and then there's some integration, right? So because we have this crazy new digital world happening in front of us, there is stuff like there's this game called Decentraland, and in Decentraland you own a house. You actually pay real money for it. You pay real money for the land.
Is this like Second Life?
Kinda, yeah. So you live in a big neighborhood with a bunch of people digitally, and you can hang the NFTs up on your wall. So they could have like the clip up on the wall of their digital house and show it off to people. And then I've heard that like when you have like Google Glass, like people will be looking around with Google Glass.
It's just the most millennial fucking thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
I can't buy a real home in the real world, so I'm going to buy one in my digital world and decorate it with memes that I now own.
Paying $800 to live in a tiny apartment and then just putting on your Oculus Rift and beaming into your fake digital life where you pay $2,000 a month to live in a virtual mansion and have very expensive NFTs. Like, dude, that would be probably better than a lot of people's lives now.
You're selling a tweet for an NFT, right?
Yeah. For $1 million.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, you're trying to get it to $1 million. You're just waiting.
Well, the minimum bid is $1 million.
The minimum bid?
The minimum bid. So you auction off the tweets.
So you're auctioning it for $1 million.
If you want to check them out, you just go to alexgiampapa.com/tweets. It's GIAM as in Mary, PAPA. You can go there and check them out. They're in like the links in my bio and stuff. And basically, I have all these tweets. I've had a couple go viral. I had a couple on the Reddit front, or I had 2 that were the #1 post on Reddit, which, God, I feel like such a douchebag saying out loud, but this happens to you. Everyone you've ever met in your life texts you congratulations, and then you make no money. So
yeah,
when I heard about the concept of NFTs, I realized that me and a lot of comedians and artists and creative people in general were probably sitting on some sort of value that they could really use. So yeah, I had this tweet, and the tweet is about, ironically, making money. It's about GameStop stock.
I know the tweet.
Yeah, and so I was like, you know what? This NFT's going for no less than $1 million, and I just put that on there, and it's still going, which is crazy. It was a bit that I just kind of did for fun, but now I've done some interviews about it. I'm going to be doing content like about the tweet. I've talked to the actual service that allows you to make your tweets into NFTs. It's called Valuables, and it's by Cent. So check them out. And what's really funny is that the $1 million tweet created a bunch of interest in my other tweets. So I've gotten like people bidding like $50, $75 on some of them. I haven't sold anything yet.
Just holding out. Diamond hands, baby.
I'm diamond hands in some of these.
Alex does have diamond hands. I got fucking paper mache hands.
It sucks.
I will buy, and then I'll be like, I'm so excited to see that I made a profit, and I'm like, $60, woo, fucking sell. And I was just like, I'm just so happy with the money I didn't have.
Yeah.
I'm also, I struggle with the concept of money for nothing, and what I mean by that is I grew up with just financial illiteracy and the typical working class idea of money, which is back-breaking labor, miserable time that you give to an employer equals money.
Right.
Never property equals money. Never an accumulation of stock or property and all that. The way rich people make money, the proper way to make money, doing nothing. I did it the bad way. But even then, I look at that old way of making money, the merchant way, or the landowners as like the founding fathers and people like that. And then it's like, dude, in this new grand scheme of money, like I'll talk to people who say things, because there are millennial boomers.
Yeah.
They're our age or
plenty.
Younger, but they have a boom mentality. And they're like,
we're a very effectively propagandized nation, so there's many. Yeah.
And they'll say things like, why don't these people just get a real job? And I'm like, you hate your job. Right? You work construction, you're a laborer, you're in the hot sun, you're in the cold. Now you're making a good wage, but you're breaking your ass, working overtime, you're exhausted at the end of the week. This dude on YouTube just made quadruple what you make in a year. All right?
Yeah.
In like several months.
Yep.
Eating food. Just eating Popeye's chicken or traveling. All right. Like my brother follows these people on YouTube who just travel the world and document themselves, and people give them money to do it. And I've looked at how people make money, and I'm like, dude, like I know people making loot taking feet pictures.
Yeah.
And then I think about it, and I'm like, what we attribute money to work, the whole thing it doesn't make sense anymore. Because for every dude who's working at an Amazon factory, there's your Jake Paul. There's a guy who made money doing a backflip.
Yeah.
That guy and it's like, how do you motivate anyone to go work in the factory? Because like Gen Z, I keep hearing boomers will go, these Gen Zers, you know what job Gen Zers want the most? To be a YouTuber. And I go, that makes a lot of sense, dude.
Yeah.
I would rather be a YouTuber. And I would rather be a YouTuber than have to go work at Starbucks at Dunkin' Donuts. And how do you make sense of making money in a system like that, where someone who actually provides a service, builds something, makes something, and then you got feet pick dude who's crushing it. Just I gotta be feet pick dude.
You blatantly have this system that makes no sense. Money itself doesn't make any sense. So people don't believe in it anymore. That's why like we have no idea what things are worth, how shit is valued. We have this like very weird. America is a unique economy in so many ways, and an economy extends out to the rest of society in every single way. We have this really weird like, kind of like. It's fake free market where you can do pretty good doing like weird shit, and then occasionally people will become hyper wealthy or powerful, not above anyone who's really in control, but they'll become very wealthy and powerful because of a reason that is almost ironic, like
Kim Kardashian.
Yeah.
Like the sex video?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's a thing, right? The sex tape is supposed to be...
a humiliation.
A humiliation or something that you're ashamed of. But they locked into this Kim Kardashian or really her mom, who apparently like wanted to leak the video and had it leaked. But I'm sure the whole thing was a plan or whatever from the beginning. She is, dude, just fucking
Imagine being pimped out by your mother.
Kris Jenner, dude. Like she's built fucking 4 billionaires who are all just her slaves. She owns the U.S. I'm pretty sure. They Kim Kardashian was able to expose this weird thing that, Paris Hilton kind of did as well, which is that like, yeah, like we want to see the celebrities fuck, we obviously want to see it.
Hilton really flopped, huh? Yeah, that sex tape didn't do for what it needed to do.
No, dude, I'm telling you, I recently like read into Paris Hilton a little bit. One of the most well-adjusted people coming out of that lifestyle, coming out of Hollywood. She made good money, still does, like producing behind the scenes. Just got married to some guy. And she didn't actually have any kind of like a public lashing or meltdown. She just sort of bowed out. If you think about her timeline, like there was nothing that bad. It was, dude, these like blonde pop star women were just fucking, kind of like a weird punchline throughout the 2000s.
I think Paris Hilton had something that they didn't, though, which was generational wealth.
Oh, yeah. Hilton was of course.
I think Paris woke up one day and goes, "Oh, I'm going to be a billionaire. I don't need to be a whore."
Right.
And it was like, "Oh, what am I doing?"
Exactly.
Meanwhile, Britney was like, if I don't do this shit, it's straight back to the trailer park.
Yep.
They're gonna shave my head.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be fucking some dude in a trailer park in Louisiana. Okay. How many nights a week do I need to dance in Vegas? Whatever.
Yeah, dude. How have you looked into her, or have you like watched the conservatorship thing?
I'm confused by it.
Okay, dude, she's a pretty decent example of how complicated this class warfare thing is.
So her dad gets to keep her money or decide how she spends it? Is that how it works?
I'll tell you something, man. Like when you read leftist theory and literature, you hear a lot about how a worker is exploited. Mm-hmm. There are a few workers in America that are being exploited by their boss as badly as Britney Spears is. Britney Spears' father, after she had I believe it's the episode where she like shaved her head and there were all these paparazzi around her and she took an umbrella and like hit one of their cars with it. She goes to a rehab facility of some kind. And, I think that they put her on some kind of medication to calm her down. I guess that's beside the point because we don't know what Britney Spears' medical records say at that point in time. Mm-hmm. She could have had a very bad mental break. It also sounds like she pretty reasonably broke mentally because paparazzi is more of an invasive thing than people think it is. It's literally like a bunch of people surrounding you when you're going to do something, and
they're like
yelling.
Hyenas. They literally look and
they're trying to
like
piss
hyenas.
you off, and like it's like her. She's sitting in a restaurant like with her 1-year-old child, I think, and just
They
crying.
yell insults at you in hopes that you explode back.
Right. So anyway, she goes to this rehab facility, which is not uncommon for people now, and her assets, basically her entire estate, is handed over to her father in the form of what's called a conservatorship. And a conservatorship is usually used in cases where someone is like really old.
Yeah, and has dementia.
And has dementia and they can't control fucking, their assets, and someone needs to make the decisions of, what's going to happen with their money and their house and so on and so forth. It is bizarre that they would have access of Britney's estate given to her dad for this long. It's been since then. He's owned it. Okay, so there's like a team, and she's had music since then, and she had like Vegas residency and stuff. If you
Vegas residency is big money too.
Yeah. So she's had like plenty of stuff since then. It all goes to him, and this extends. Britney Spears is a piece of capital that they choose to own and manipulate, in that they don't want her to have another kid and they force her to keep birth control in.
Really? What are they, crunching it up in her orange juice?
She testified that.
Dude, Britney Spears, and not just Britney. This is one of those reasons that I don't shit on people who were child celebrities, because there's a very good chance that they got diddled. Like it's just like at the bare minimum, they were put in some really gross sexual situations.
Yes, around creeps.
Dan Schneider is making his comeback. For those of you who don't know, Dan Schneider is he made iCarly and a bunch of kid shows, and it just so happened he was really into feet. And if you look at a lot of the videos, you'll find the clips of just weird feet-related pranks within the TV shows. And I don't care. Dan looks like a creep. I'm just going to call him a creep based on his looks, because he is, okay? Yeah. And you got that going for you. Also, your parents pimped you out.
Yeah.
Like, dude, imagine your parents pimped you out as, this is my kid. He's a piece of property. Use him as you will and pay me.
Yeah. And it's like, it's all part of this sick fucking system where, a parent they hear about some kid who got famous, and then it's like, oh, maybe my kid could make me rich. And it's like, it's bad, man.
It's like the Middle Ages when you would hear stories. Like in the Middle Ages, a family might just get rid of their kid.
Yeah.
Because it's too much of a hassle. I'm going to give you to the monks, and they'll train you to be one of you. Or I'm going to give you to this army, and they're going to take care of you. They would sell their kids for something, because it's like, back then it wasn't like, let's plan to have a kid, and we got to have sex at this time to do it. It was like, oh, fuck, another one? Really? Oh, god damn. And then they would think about, we're going to leave in the woods? Yes. We're going to leave in the woods? Yes. Maybe. Let's do it.
Yes. Oh, man. It's fucking unreal, man.
It's very much the Britney syndrome.
It's crazy. If you look back through her like Instagram posts, she literally says like, we will redistribute the wealth. She posts like the red rose is like a socialist thing online. And it's like, oh my God, this person is this famous, but is still being exposed. And it really makes me think about, on a personal level, the relationship comedians have with their managers, with their agencies, and with their audiences. And how Britney Spears, because she's forced to go through this avenue, not only like, the legal system or whatever, but just agencies and her father and so on and so forth, that she is the one being controlled. And class is actually not identified. This is according to some theorists, and I think it makes sense. Class is not identified by income. Income actually doesn't determine class.
It's by your role.
It's by your role. Whether you are the worker or the owner, or the bourgeois or proletariat.
So like the NFL player versus his owner.
Right, exactly. That guy could be making $14 million a season, but there's a lot of things he can't do. There's a lot of things he's not allowed to say. There's
like smoke weed before the Olympics?
Right, exactly. So what part of freedom, like we identify money as freedom and money as the ability to do things, but at what point is autonomy more valuable than money, right? When is it more valuable, and when are you more free? When you're accepting the money to act a certain way, or when you're saying no to the money and acting however you want?
I go with the latter of the two.
Right, but that's a preferential choice, and it probably shouldn't come down to being a choice. But regardless, Britney Spears is the worker, and her father is the owner, and that's why Britney Spears is one of the most famous people in the United States and probably the world, but also doesn't have as much power as her dad, who's a guy. He's a fucking guy.
He's just a dude.
He's just a guy. He didn't even like build her career or anything. He like wasn't even like around. I mean, I'm not going to get into it.
I can't imagine he was around if he was like, here's my teenage daughter, put her in a schoolgirl outfit and say, "Hit me, baby, one more time."
Yeah.
It's like I remember being a kid and being into that, but it's kind of weird that like our parents were all like, "Yeah, this is cool."
There was a lot of pedophilia in the 90s.
It was like, I'm like, dude, this was, and then these same parents would be like, "Hey, I don't want my daughter being a slut," and I'm like, "You're not, you're kind of feeding them, you're kind of feeding them the opposite thing there, Jim."
Yeah. Not to mention the boomers don't want their daughters to be, sexual in any way, but they keep hitting on 15-year-olds. It's the amount of fucking older guys that'll come up to you and give you a little fucking, "Hey, look at her," it's too many. It's too many, in my opinion.
It's a lot.
Not to mention, like, oh, sure, like, whatever, but keep it to yourself. When men want to be horny together, I just don't know. And look, there's men that are going to point out, there's an attractive woman. And then there's guys that are like, "Oh, man, what I would do to her." Don't tell me. Think about it. Write it down if you want. But, like,
I just might stare and grunt to myself. That's about as much as I do.
That's fine. Bite your knuckles or whatever.
The worst is when you're with a group of guys and a girl walks by and everyone's like, "Look at her ass," and then one guy goes, "Look at her feet," and you go, no, Jerry, no.
Yeah, that's why you always keep it to yourself.
I've had many situations like that where the dude goes, "You see her feet?" And I was like, "No,
man,
no, I didn't."
No, man. And if you did, great, great. It's so unreal, man. But yeah, and it's like a confusing situation because I hear from again it's nice because kind of everybody watches the show. Or we just finished season 3. I'll be doing a bunch of other content and then some stand up, a little bit of touring, and then we'll be back probably later this year.
This is the actual news.
The actual news. YouTube.com/the actual news. And it's nice because a pretty wide range of people politically watch the show. We get a lot of, it's mostly younger people. But other than that, but there are older folks as well. Point being though that, I try to make it clear that this whole situation is never really cut and dry. Sometimes you have to explain it like it is in order to just be concise or make it make sense to people. But it's really not as simple as rich people bad.
No, it's not. And I think a lot of people get caught up in that.
Most leftists do, I think.
Well, I think what people make this mistake is that they think that whether it is a centralized system owned by the government, like in a Marxist, communist, Soviet type system,
right,
or a system that we have, which says free market but isn't quite that free, and is more centralized within 6 large conglomerates, right?
Yeah,
it's still the same industrial system. Mm-hmm. It's still the same consumerist system. It's still basically before industrialization, we were the producers and the consumers.
Yeah,
and now it's just down to, are you a producer or a consumer?
Yeah, pretty much. It's such a weird thing too because it kind of brings me back to the Bitcoin stuff where, if you're interested in crypto at all, learning the technical aspects are useful. I think I'm not wired in that way, so I understand it to some degree. But the more interesting part of it is the philosophy behind it, which is basically decentralizing finance. And we think of wealth as this limited thing, and some people have some of it and some people don't. But I think power is a more apt description of what gets passed around between people. And money obviously plays into that, but what I want people to know is that you can decentralize finance, and if you don't let this one entity control money, then it is entirely possible that more wealth can be built, more wealth can be created, right? The cost of plywood, right, is way up.
Yeah,
right?
Lumber as a whole is completely through the fucking roof.
There's not less trees
this
year. Like, yeah, there's less trees over time, but it didn't suddenly shoot up because there's less trees. It's not about resources, really. It's more the illusion that certain resources do not exist in order to keep them scarce, in order to maintain a certain amount of value. So what I want to make clear is that it's not like we only have this amount of wealth. Like, you can build more of it. So sometimes keeping an eye on taking it from someone else is not the most productive way to be. With that said, when you have someone like Bezos or Zuckerberg or, one of the hyper billionaires, or just really any billionaire at this point, when you have them having that amount of money and the only financial system being the US dollar, then yeah, they have all the fucking power over all the other people, so taxes are probably the best way to move that over to the working class. So there's a myriad of ways to look at it, but it's really not rich people bad, poor people good. It's you look at who is in control and who is in power, and you try to take that power and you try to give it to basically as many people as possible to a reasonable degree, basically to the degree that other people agree on. And that's the most agreeable thing that you can pitch, and you never really hear it.
No, you don't, because it doesn't work for someone at the top.
No. But,
I mean, if you ask most people in America, regardless of their political views, Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, whatever, I think, and you said, how do you think America was doing? Most of them will say bad. And they'll give you different reasons for it. But across the board, they all kind of agree that we're not doing well.
Yeah.
Or things aren't going great.
Yep. Fear of a civil war is like every time they do a survey on this, it's like higher and higher. Like what average people think the likelihood of a civil war is. And it's... do
you think that's more media influence than anything else?
I think the distribution of wealth allows for far more media influence, and I also think it creates general anxiety. I read today that the more inequity you have, the far more likely you are to have a civil war.
I mean, that's what happened with Yugoslavia.
Yeah. So you have, or go ahead, sorry.
Well,
yeah.
That's people, a lot of the same Serbs and Croats and Bosnians that were killing each other were, not less than a decade before being fine with one another.
Right, yes.
But times were good.
Yes, exactly.
And then they weren't.
Yeah, and then so you have people capitalizing on the shit, so you have a joint, sort of a joining of corporations and government, right? And that's what happens when you have this much inequity. And that has always resulted in basically fascism, authoritarianism, let's call it. And that's what you have with the press. So, yeah, the press just has two fucking opinions. They shoot out the red one, they shoot out the blue one, and that's what you guys are going to argue about this week. And that's just sort of how they run the gambit. You know what I mean? So, I mean, again, like, it's not an impossible situation, and I think a lot of people are waking up to it. And the good thing about the U.S. is that it is, it is libertarian to the degree that they are allowing like crazy shit to just happen, and there's some stuff that they can't stop or control. And
I found out you could own tanks.
Yeah.
In Arizona you can own a tank? I didn't know that.
In Arizona?
Dude, when I was in Arizona, I met this guy, and he showed me a video of him and his friends shooting artillery pieces in the desert.
How much is the tank?
And he goes, "That's my howitzer." And then he goes, "This is my friend's tank." And I go, "Where does he park his tank?" He goes, "In his garage." Like I'm an asshole. And I was like, he's just like, "Where else would he park it?" And I go, I don't know, buddy. I don't know anyone with a tank.
Yeah.
And then he showed me a video of him and his friends shooting a minigun from their helicopter.
Oh my God.
And I go, dude, the States really are different countries in so many ways.
Yeah. How much is a tank?
I don't know. He said that he bought it. It was like the military was getting rid of it, and they were selling it, and then he kind of just reconfigured it.
He did.
Yeah. And
Oh
I was like, God. I just didn't know. Yeah, It's not like he bought it straight from Lockheed
I found
Martin.
it. Do you want to guess?
I'm gonna say it's like, $800,000.
No.
More?
Dude, it's a pretty decent bargain, man.
How much?
150K.
150 for a tank?
150K.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. Man, that's not impossible to get.
Dude, there are sports cars that are more expensive than that.
I know. Yeah, straight up.
I can't wait to buy a tank with my Dogecoin, dude.
Yeah, once SafeMoon takes off, dude, I'm just gonna have a fucking army.
So we're getting ready to wrap up. What are your predictions for the next election cycle?
2022 or
2024.
2024. I don't think it'll be Trump. I
don't think so either.
I think he'll name like a successor of some kind. But I think that either the Republican candidate will win using some kind of populist message, kind of like Josh Hawley. Tucker Carlson actually is pretty good at this too. But like Trump, they'll address class and they'll just basically use one section of knowledge about class warfare to win. So they'll say, there is an upper class and a lower class. You guys are the lower class and the elites are trying to take over and I'll save you. So whatever Republican candidate basically says that, I think will probably win, beating Biden or possibly Kamala Harris.
Do you think Biden's going to last the whole 4 years? Like, physically, do you think they'll just be like, all right, you got to...
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I think he's pumped full of drugs by like I think he's the most well-funded, zombified old man of all time.
Yeah, it's like when you read stories about how Hitler was kept going with quantities of speed, just massive amounts of speed, or how Churchill or Stalin kept themselves going on gin or vodka,
right?
Just zombified their organs.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he's got to have like a great doctor there, Dr. Feelgood.
Yeah. He big time does, and Trump probably did too.
No, he did. I think everyone.
I think they both take a ton of amphetamine. That's just like kind of the impression that I get, especially from Trump. He would get like dry mouth a lot. Some of his speaking patterns. He's also got some. I don't know. He's got some other physical shit going on that's not great.
But the man ate McDonald's and drank Diet Coke.
Yeah, he's like literally, he's like legit the America mascot. Like he's a legit a golden man who just only drinks cola and eats fast food and just bullshits his whole life and gets away with it. He got away with everything. Like everything he's ever done in his life, he's gotten away with.
Well, I don't think anything's going to happen to him in regards to his presidency, because if they set a precedent that a politician can answer for what they've done,
that's the politicians have to do that, so they won't. Yeah,
which is actually funny.
Yeah.
Sparta used to do that with their ruling council.
Huh?
They had two kings, which were like generals, but you also had like 5 people who ran. There was a council who ran the city-state, but after your term, you had to answer for what you did to the next 5 people.
Yeah, okay.
It was an amazing system.
Yes.
But only worked once because everyone was like, let's not do what those idiots did. You know?
That's so funny. And that makes a ton of sense. And yeah, I mean, I think that the Republican candidate will win using kind of like a populist argument like that. That's barring the Democratic candidate being primaried. That is the one really important thing that I actually think could... I don't want to phrase it this dramatically, but save America to some point is having someone with politics somewhere around like you could even be right of Elizabeth Warren. Like Warren is doesn't call herself a socialist, was openly opposed to a lot of Bernie Sanders stuff. The blatant corruption you kind of have to get rid of. You should let people unionize. Single-payer healthcare is less expensive and has better outcomes. There's a lot of propaganda on that subject. It is not a pipe dream. It's a smarter thing to do. And I think we'll do it in Massachusetts ourselves before the whole country does. But you get someone with politics that are somewhere around Elizabeth Warren. You make them just fucking someone in their 50s. And America would go for that. They would. There'd be some propaganda about it, but if you have someone that looks like they're not a fucking like Mr. Magoo cartoon, like Bernie Sanders.
Someone who isn't physically melting.
Yes, like someone with a fully functional spine, or not. Like FDR didn't even have one, and people fucking.
He had a metaphorical spine, though.
Yeah,
he didn't,
exactly. In
let me-
lieu of a physical spine.
If two big mouthed women came on stage and said we're taking over, FDR would have settled for that bullshit. All right, he's like, I can't stand for this physically, but morally I will.
Yeah, FDR was also meaner to black people. So.
That's true. That is true.
That's a funny thing when we talk about economics in the U.S. We're like, it was so perfect in the 50s and 60s. Like, I want to make it clear, like, people don't like FDR to some degree because black people were excluded from this big economic revolution that we had. And when I talk, at the beginning I said there's progress in different ways. Like, the social progress has been good, the economic has been bad. So, anyway, you get someone in their 50s, maybe around there, even 40s, who's not AOC and is not Trump, but is also not a boring centrist, right? You cannot have someone...
No young person wants centrism.
No, it's fucking ridiculous. They'll lose to a far right or a far left candidate because... Dude, if you're drowning and someone's like, let's fucking go this way, and someone else is like, let's go this way, and one guy's like, I'm uncomfortable with both ways to go. Let's just sit here and drown. Like, it fucking doesn't work. No one wants to build half a wall. It's so stupid. So you find some candidate who's around there, you have him primary Biden or Kamala, and that'll be fine. But that's not going to happen. The people who are in charge will continue to push for what they're going to continue to push for. And most likely you're going to see a kind of like a Trump-esque candidate win, I would assume. With that said, there's a lot of weird stuff going on with digital voting, mail-in voting. I don't think that Trump actually won this election. I've seen no evidence of that. But I will say that when you have tech companies with complete monopolies or oligopolies or whatever you want to call it coming in charge of the way that we communicate and exchange information, they're not going to do it in the most democratic way. So I also think the integrity of elections is something to be worried about in the future. Again, I've seen no evidence of it happening this time, but I have no doubt that it's possible. To steal one or fake one at this point. So, yeah, I predict it's going to be pretty fucking nuts.
All right. One last question. What do you think the Fed does in response to cryptocurrency? Do they just let it play out? You think they try and stamp this? Because I've noticed that I had a Binance account, the original Binance account, which was a Chinese website. And then I went to log in and it said, you have 48 hours to transfer this to Binance.us.
Yeah.
And I go, why do I have to do this? And I go, oh, they want to keep track of this so they can tax me.
Yeah.
And then I noticed that Venmo now is demanding my social security number.
Yep.
And I go, what is all this about, Venmo?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you want your piece of the pie.
Yeah, Massachusetts specifically will also tax you for cryptocurrency. So it's they will try to stop it. Now, there's incentive within the government to halt Bitcoin because it does affect the U.S. dollar. Also, people who have a lot of U.S. dollars don't want the value of the U.S. dollar to go down. So Bill Gates has said shit like, people are buying fentanyl with Bitcoin. Like, there's going to be, like, a lot of shit like, shut the fuck up, Bill Gates.
God, I'm so fucking done with Bill Gates.
Hey, Bill Gates, did you buy a 15-year-old with U.S. dollar? Okay, can I rest my case? Did you get divorced because of the Jeffrey problem? Okay, so...
Yeah. Oh, I forgot Bill was friends with him.
Bill was very good friends with
I just forget that
dude.
Bill likes to stick needles in little kids in Africa and just be like, oh, what's that, polio?
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah, and then he's over on Little St. James sticking his needle in little kids too. It's fucking... I can't say that he did that, but what the fuck? It's almost weirder if he didn't.
Dude,
like, what
think
are
of
you
it
doing
like
hanging
this.
out?
Look, if I see pictures of you continually hanging out with a coke dealer, I'm going to assume you did some coke with him at some point.
If you didn't, it's like, what were you doing?
Yeah, that guy does a lot of coke. It would be weird to hang out with a dude who constantly did coke and never did any of his coke.
Yeah. So there's incentive within the government to shut it down and get rid of crypto. And you'll hear a lot of stuff about the environment. They'll say it's bad for the environment, try to shut it down like that. Now, at the same time, there's also incentive within the government. Again, the CIA, I believe, and the FBI own some Bitcoin, or like probably a pretty big chunk of it. So I think there's also a section of the government that has accepted that Bitcoin or some other form of cryptocurrency is sort of the future. And I think globalists are a lot more likely. That's a word I know will make people immediately flip out. But
It's all right. I've used it plenty of times in this podcast.
okay, cool. So people who want to have like one giant world government, they're in favor of Bitcoin for the most part, from what I've seen. As are other people for different reasons. But I think that eventually Bitcoin will become the reserve currency. So right now it's gold, but like our wealth isn't even, or the U.S. dollar isn't really like
It's not backed
based
by
on.
No, it's not.
It's not. It hasn't for a while. Bitcoin is sort of a self-regulating system. It does check out in a lot of different ways, and I think it makes sense to base it off of some sort of a universal system that can regulate itself and isn't necessarily controlled by a central bank or entity. Again, it's a powerful thing. It can go, the other way too and be crazy. But my prediction would be that Bitcoin becomes the reserve currency at some point. It could be Ethereum. It could be fucking Dogecoin. I don't know.
It's not Doge.
Yeah,
Doge can be infinite. It's designed for inflation.
Yeah, and that's gonna actually piss off a lot of my followers who watch this because like it's funny. I went viral for the Dogecoin tweet, and then like just a third of your audience is like Dogecoin people.
Doge is the least reliable. It really is. Let's just be honest, guys. It's
but there's also there's some cryptos that are blatant rug pulls. I'll say that
there's many.
Doge has in a technical sense, it's very similar to Litecoin. The branding is probably a little bit better. Overall, I think Ethereum, and this is again based off sort of my limited technical knowledge, but something like Ethereum or like Cardano or SafeMoon or XRP, I think that's called Ripple.
It is, yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah,
which they were getting sued for a little bit, so they weren't on certain platforms.
Yeah, I've heard like sketchy things about them as well. But I've never offered financial advice, and I never will. But I think some sort of crypto will become the reserve currency, which would place its value, according to the Winklevoss twins, that would place its value at $500K per Bitcoin. It's now at like 30. I like Bitcoin. I like crypto. It is a controversial subject for a lot of people, and it's not a miracle thing.
No, I don't think it is. I've watched people do good things and horrible things.
Yeah, so the Fed will try to shut it down in various ways, of course. One thing that they're going to do is sort of have like their own cryptocurrencies, and this will play into the stock market because from what I've looked into, a lot of very powerful people want a lot of retail investors, so like normal people to be invested in stocks because that creates almost a dependency upon that company's success. Mm-hmm. So like it's like I don't want Amazon to fail. I have Amazon stock.
Exactly.
So there's like Microsoft crypto coins you can buy now, but they are Microsoft stock. But you can buy them on some crypto exchanges. So if you buy some of this Microsoft crypto, it actually increases the value of Microsoft's stock.
It's such a
which is like a fucking kind of bullshit way of doing it.
I have a friend who I've had conversations with about how much we hate Pfizer, and
he has
Pfizer stock. So it's like that's a weird.
It's hedging your existence. It's either these companies fail or at least you made some money.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So I predict some pretty crazy stuff in general.
Well, dude, thanks for coming on again, man.
Of course.
Where can people find you?
Best way to look at my stuff is Jam Daddy on Twitter. It feels ridiculous to say out loud, but my real last name is Giampapa. So I just live like that. But yeah, so Instagram and Twitter, it's Jam Daddy.
Whenever I tag you or Frankie Puopolo, Frankie's Instagram is Power Bear Leather Daddy. and yours is GM Daddy. And it's just like, and you both are bearded dudes. And it's like, people are going to think that this podcast is just for bears. Just like a big gay bear podcast. And maybe it'll turn out that way.
Maybe.
But we'll still talk about crypto and the decline of the West.
Perfect. Yeah, Jam Daddy on Instagram and Twitter. You can check out my stuff there. For the next couple months, I'll be doing a lot of live stand-up. So I'll be posting content, but feel free to come out and see me live too. I'll be around Boston, Tennessee next week, or this won't be out by then. So no. Boston, San Francisco, some other cool stuff in the fall and the winter time, and then Tennessee probably later, like 2022 or so, and I'll do some stuff down south. And then, just keep your eyes peeled for content, basically, is what I'll be putting out. I have plans for a few different things, so should be fun.
All right, dude. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.